Welcome to Trash Talk.
Welcome back to Trash Talk, where we talk about all things biogas, from our company culture to our industry hot topics. So Dan Zimmerman, being the Director of Operations, Compliance, and Health and Safety, might know a little something about what impacts the well field.
A little bit.
A little.
Not as much as my people, but a little bit.
All right.
That's very humble of you.
Well, it's the truth.
I appreciate you giving credit where credit is due.
No, but it is. I mean, we're talking about a very dynamic living system. This is the well field, right? Things change. And, old school well field technology was to go out, install the wells, start drawing vacuum off of the well field and have it adjusted at a certain rate. How it works for like weather fronts, we can see changes when there's a storm coming in. We can see a change in the way that the gas is coming out of the well field. So the pressure on the well field changes the dynamic of how we pull the gas out of the well field. So back to like old school, when we would adjust things, we would go around and adjust the entire well field to get the right sweet spot on every single well. And then the weather would change. And so that changed the whole dynamic of how you draw the gas out of that well, and you got to go around and adjust again, right? So like there's always an interesting dynamic. If you pull too hard, you can draw oxygen in, and in an anaerobic condition, you do not want oxygen into your well field because it will kill the microbes. And the microbes are eating all that organic matter, and they're basically farting, and that fart is methane. And we take that and we process it and we utilize it. So
I've heard the anaerobic digestion process defined a lot. I have never heard of the bacteria farting methane. No,
that's a new one.
Hey, listen, it's the way things work, right? It's science, and science is cool. But so anyway, so you have to change. You have to change the way you draw on that well field. We've got loci heads, these very complicated instruments that sit on each one of our well heads. They send signals to people, and we watch this stuff and we program it. And we do all sorts of crazy magic. If we start pulling too hard on an area, then we're gonna start getting nitrogen and oxygen and all the things we don't want that we have to take out of our gas. We start to draw that stuff in. So we have to control that part. We get that controlled, we adjust it kind of on the fly, and it allows us to maintain steady operations, which is what we want.
So let's back up just a minute. So when we think of old school way, I envision a dozen people going out to individual wellheads on a landfill and turning valves or twisting levers, pulling levers, turning valves. Like, is that what it used to be like? Or what was that process?
Well, see, like a wellfield person would say a dozen. That would be awesome. Like if we had 12 guys humping around the well field, making tweaks and adjustments, and I should step back just a bit. They're using a gem, which is an analyzer. So what they do is they come up to this well and they stick their probes onto the wellhead, and they draw a sample out. So then they can say, okay, what's the oxygen, what's the nitrogen, what's the carbon dioxide, what's the O2. We just work through those adjustments, and then they would just manually open or close the valve a little bit more to control the draw, right? So thinking about that on 120 wells, you got one guy generally. 12 would be awesome. Okay. One guy generally, at least from our perspective. And this person will spend his whole time working around the well field to get all of those wells done. Now there's compliance reasons to do that, but there's also production reasons to do that. So they will go and they'll do that entire system. And they'll tweak and adjust and get a reading on this one, get a post reading. Okay, what did I do? How did that work? Maybe there's no vacuum at all. So they've got to pull their team together, and maybe even our A1 team, to have them come out and say, hey man, we've got a leak, or there's something going on here. Maybe a pump's not working. There's so many different variables out there, but they'll just work through that every single day. Like that's what they do.
So A1 team, is that like our best team? Are they like, what's that? Who's A1?
Yeah, so A1 is one of our divisions, and
Advanced One.
Advanced One.
Okay.
And what Advanced One will do is they'll put the infrastructure in a well field. Like even if there isn't infrastructure at all, they'll design and work with our engineers to lay out the proper capture mat, if you will, on that well field. And then they'll put the infrastructure in. They'll put the laterals, all the gas, all these gas wells we have to draw that gas back to the plant. So there's headers and there's all sorts of stuff that goes around with that. They will install all of that for us. And then luckily, then we just operate it. Now, if we do run into a serious problem or an issue, we get on the phone with Andy and his team and we say, hey, we need you guys out here, and we've got that. So that's like one of the many great advantages of our company is we've got internal teams to help us with these issues, and we don't have a lot of time. Like, time is a huge deal. So we have to get this stuff done relatively quick. And so having that connection to A1 is super for operations.
Nice. Thanks for that. Mike, what'd you have?
The analogy that a lot of people have used for many years with a landfill is that they're a living, breathing thing, right? So if you think about the well field and you think about each individual well as a patient, right? Your well field ops team are the nurse. So when you like correlate this to the healthcare model, right, is, you know, the well field ops person is the nurse. And when you talk about healthcare at a hospital, what do you hear about all the time? Nurse to patient ratio, right? So you've got that nurse taking care of 50 wells, 150 wells.
Seems like our ratio is a little off. If it's one person taking care of 120 wells.
The Wellfield guys will appreciate that.
It's a big job, right?
Yeah,
then a lot of times it's the thankless job. So then when there's an issue, and again, sticking with this healthcare correlation, you know, what happens then?
Well, we have to check with our insurance first.
No. Well, thankfully, we do not have health insurance issues and billing with wellfield operations. But then you bring in a doctor, right? You know, and it may be an MD, right? So they're kind of a generalist, and you know, maybe that's like a regional manager or a plant manager that then would be able to assess and assist the wellfield ops team. Beyond that, I kind of look at Advance One and the technical support teams that we have here at the landfill group as the specialists. So like that MD, the generalist, the site manager, the regional manager, then makes an assessment and say you need a cardiologist. That's where the tech support team comes in. So now you're getting ultra specialized. Yeah. And then if you take it further and you're looking at like preventative care, that's how I equate loci and how we incorporate them into our process. Like that system is the preventative maintenance and predictive to say, if we do these things, we can avoid these outcomes.
Gotcha.
So that's, you know, when you look at it as, you know, a lot of folks in the industry for years have called landfills living, breathing things. And obviously with a bunch of bacteria farting methane, you know, so if you really boil it then down to healthcare, is like you've got the front line, the generalist, the ultra specialized disciplines, and then you've got the preventative maintenance side of it with systems and processes to avoid outcomes that you don't want.
Because I know when I went to, I believe it was Anson, I walk in the door and I see an operator's cockpit. There's 4 screens setting up, and you see the picture overhead view of the landfill, and you've got all the little dots on it. And then it's like, I know just from being in a landfill that those dots are our wellheads, and that's how they're performing. So going from one person taking a meter reading off of one well and adjusting it once a month to now we can adjust it pretty much across 24/7, across from wherever remotely. That's amazing. So what kind of efficiency differences do we see from, I'll say back then, to now with the introduction of loci and what we're using them for?
Well, like really the most important factor I think you just sort of touched on is that we can see it, right? Yeah. So we can pull up the screen, not just that guy, but this guy, and that guy can pull up the screen and see what's going on. We can do an overview of the well field, and we can say, ooh, what's going on with this red one? Something's going on there. Pop it up, analyze it, talk about it, get the group together, get loci on the phone, and we just attack it. And again, you may not see that for a month if you don't have the system in place to observe and watch that.
Yeah. So again, that's that predictive preventative maintenance aspect of it. And you know, you take that a little bit further. Now you've got historical log data. You know, so you're in a preventative maintenance program in healthcare, and then okay, there is an issue. Now you have this large historical data set to take to a specialist and help them like diagnose and fix something that much sooner. So
And it significantly reduces our risk by not having to go out there or just knowing where to go. Right. Because this whole network of piping, there's valves and laterals and connections where we can isolate a spot. And so if I know that over on the northeast side of the well field, GW27 is having some issues and there seems to be a lot of oxygen there, then we can go over to that isolation point and just isolate it. And then we can go in and figure out what's wrong and actually fix it and then bring it back online. So like it cuts down the time out in the field with, making it quite efficient. But the efficiency and the safety aspect of it are very important. So that's why we have redundant systems to manage how we would handle a situation where we have a leak. We got this really cool leak toy. Did I talk to you guys about this? Can I just one little?
It always has to go back to safety
no,
somewhere.
No, this actually isn't a safety topic. This is a widget that like he likes to brag about this thing as if it was a child of his. Like, you get that baby, you bring it home from the hospital, and like you got pictures and you got to show it off.
So listen, just let me defend myself here.
I wasn't attacking.
Well, of course you weren't.
I was making fun of you.
Well,
I wasn't attacking.
But that's okay. So like a big concern of ours is the potential for a leak. Historically, we've used things like methane detectors, to see if we can find our H2S detectors, to see if we can find potential leaks. And sometimes even if you don't have a leak, you should check, right?
How did you used to do that?
We would literally use a methane analyzer with a tube, and we would walk over to all of the flens, the sniffer, and we would literally walk through the entire system and kind of check everything.
I thought you were going to say a chicken, but I'm glad you didn't say that.
we use a canary.
Chicken.
We have a canary that's in a cage, and we just walk around with this cage until the canary dies. There's a leak right there.
So that's what they used to do in the coal mines, right?
That's where that term came from.
I just didn't pull that one out anywhere.
I know. But I've never heard the chicken one.
I never either. That might be a side story. So anyway, that's kind of how we do things, right? When we want to do a check to make sure that our system isn't leaking, we would use a methane analyzer. And it doesn't always work that way because it's not always methane. We found this new My Little Baby, but it looks like an iPad. And what it is it's this little tool that listens for the hiss of a leak. And I'm really, Blair, I am really trying to concentrate here.
Just kidding. Does it listen for the sound of boxes dropping while
you're... Or Blair not paying attention anymore? No, it doesn't pay any attention to that.
So what happened to this 20-second segment right here?
It's still good.
Okay.
It's probably even really good. So can I go back to my toy? I mean, this really cool tool. So what this thing does is it's an iPad screen. I mean, it looks like an iPad screen. And it's kind of a tool that you just take around and it listens for hissing, like super low frequency hissing of anything. It could be airline, right? And airline leaks are kind of a big deal too. If you don't have a good system there, you've got to find it. Well, this allows us to look at anything inside of the facility and listen for a hiss.
This thing blew my mind when we first bought it. Yeah. Not only does it detect like pressure leaks, it can also detect vacuum leaks.
Oh, where you're pulling air in.
So you've got this magic box microphone thing. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's what it is.
And you point it in a direction and it takes sound and turns it into a visual that a human can see.
Yeah, it's like a red spot, right? It's a red spot. Yeah, and it tells you, if Kim is making noise over here and I'm looking straight ahead.
Kind of like Blair was just.
Like Blair, yeah, well, let's back up. Let's use Blair as she's for real. If I'm looking here and Blair is fumbling around, ignoring us and drops something, this analyzer will say, it'll say, move your thing over here. And it just go, whoop, and there's Blair right there. Blair dropping stuff. but it tells us, and it actually helps us with an arrow. Hey, dude, go that way, or hey, dude, go that way. And it's super neat. Like, we can take this out into the well field, which is super cool because it's windy out there. How would that work? It actually does.
Different frequency level.
Yeah, it's a different frequency, and it doesn't care about wind. It knows that little teeny hiss, and it'll tell us right where it is. And you know what? A Canaflex loose, or a wellhead not on properly, is huge. Like, we're drawing in oxygen when we do that, and this thing will just look at it and say, yeah, you got a leak right there. Now, the only problem is you can't just point to the ground and say, hey, where are the leaks underground? That's why we have special teams to manage the stuff that's underground. But it's a really neat tool.
So how close do you have to get
to the
leak, or before it actually, like?
I think it starts to pick it up like 10 to 15 feet away, kind of thing. So like, you kind of got to be in the area.
Right.
You got to be in the right area code. But you're walking through the system anyway. Like, when we do the plants, we put arrows on all the pipes so we know which way everything's going. And so it's really kind of visually, it's supposed to be very helpful to watch, running through your equipment and going through the next set of equipment. And we can kind of see that. So a lot of folks, especially with tours, we do that, but it's also really important to know when you're working on something, which way the flow of the pipe is going. So we can just take the whole system, and we do this on a regular basis because it's good to be preventative, and it really helps a lot. So you just kind of work your way through the entire process looking for those leaks.
So does every site have this tool?
We actually share it right now because it was a technology apparently that was used by NASA when they're doing the space shuttle stuff.
Let's call it what it was. We were pretty skeptical.
We didn't trust it, right? Like, who would trust that, right? But it really stepped up to the plate, and our team likes it. I mean, they love to have that extra little thing, that one little thing to keep an eye on our systems.
It almost sounds like sorcery. But it's amazing that they're that intelligent of people that can pull something like that together.
Yeah, I see that as being a checklist on every installation commissioning.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like everyone.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And I can take this thing on an airplane. It doesn't have a nuclear source or anything. It's just this really sensitive instrument that really does a great job.
Nice.
And again, like, pulling that back full circle. I mean, I thought you were just going to brag on your widget a bit. But if you really think about it, that's another tool to combat like challenges or hazards and environmental conditions, right? So,
yeah, risk mitigation.
Yeah.
And efficiency, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, it's hand in hand. And guess what? It's also compliant, right? So there's those three just came back to the center.
Yeah. So we just wrapped up another episode of Trash Talk with Mike and Dan. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful job on your
Good job hosting.
Your
You did a great job.
hosting.
There's only one way to go from here, and that's up.
True.
Yeah. So thanks, guys.